Hey guys, it's Hatchspace here, and today we're going to look at what I think is one of, if not the most important and best quality boots on the market, especially for the price. So this is the Redwing 877, not the 10877, but the 877, and this is 6 months past me wearing the boot. Okay, so sorry, it's been a while since I've done a video, I know, and I would like to give an apology over that. It's just that I don't have very many boots in my collection yet. I'm not really much of a boot collector. I just buy boots that I actually use on a day-to-day basis, and then I upload videos of me reviewing them. So this is 6 months after me wearing them every single day. I wear them to work, and so I do a lot of like warehouse work and stuff like that. So they don't see a whole lot of abrasion, but I also use them for pretty much anything, whether it be riding four-wheelers or cutting down trees or cutting wood or whatever it is that I'm going to be doing. These are the boots that I do that in. Um, so one thing that I saw on my last video is sizing. I didn't talk about sizing very much, which was bad on my part. So the sizing of this boot is, it's a fairly more narrow shaped boot as far as the last goes. Like Corcoran jump boots, which I have a review on, and Iron Rangers have a similar shaped last. It's one of those high developed lasts during World War II to really try to replicate a human foot the best possible, and that's why a lot of people find Iron Rangers to actually be comfortable. I had someone comment on my last video and say that these was absolutely uncomfortable. He's had them for, I think he said 2 months, maybe longer than that. But they don't fit him well. Well, most people with wider feet, I don't know if he does or not, but most people with wider feet aren't going to have the best experience in this boot because it is more of a narrow last. Me personally, I wear in a 7.5D. I'm give or take around 5'10", not very tall, and I have more of a narrow foot, which this boot accommodates for, which might be why I like it so much. Something else is this boot has amazing quality leather. It's very abrasion resistant in my experience, and it doesn't, like, how do I explain it? Like, it forms to your foot very well. It forms to the way you move very well. These things looked a lot different than what they do now since the last video I've done on them. As far as I noticed, at least, the creasing and stuff like that, and that's because at that point I wasn't on doing the same things in them that I am now. So let's say you've got a job doing construction and you're, moving a lot differently than you do when you're outside riding four-wheelers or whatever else. These boots are going to break in different ways and accommodate for all the different ways that you are moving around. So that is my experience with the actual leather itself. Now, as far as the color goes, if you guys are getting these for more of a casual wear boot, which I know a lot of people do, especially with this brand Redwings, especially with this line of boots, their heritage line, the color of the boot, I mean, it's more, especially when you first buy it, the color of it is going to somewhat, I don't want to say darken, because it's not much darker, but it does change color over time. When you first get them, they're like a bright orange, with like white accents, like it's bright orange with white stitching all over the place. It's got a white, a lot of people refer to it as a Christie sole. It's a lot like a Christie sole. It's just, in my experience, it's a lot more comfortable. The rubber is a lot more softer than what you'd see with the actual Christie sole. This is what they call their traction tread soles. So if you go to their website and you go under the traction tread filter, you're going to see a boot that is pretty much the exact same as this, called the 10877. There's no difference between them besides it has Redwing branding on the side, and its eyelets are black, which is a lot more like the original Irish setter, which these boots are extremely close to, besides, once again, the color of the leather and the eyelets. It's a bit of a darker orange. It's still got an orange tint to it, but these are more of a bright, light, brownish orange when you first get them. Over time, it'll patina. It'll get dark colors throughout the leather. There's some around this area where there's a lot of flexing. It pushes the oils out, and that's really what creates patina in leather. The stitching, you've got to understand, this is what they call a true mock toe. If you look at certain parts on this boot, like right here, for instance, that's splitting. That's not the leather breaking. That's just because this is actually two different pieces of leather, this piece and this piece, that is actually pinched and sewn together. They put a little bit of adhesive throughout this to make it look a lot more uniform, but in all reality, it is two different pieces. Something that not a lot of brands do. You buy like a Thorogood, for instance. That's one piece. Now, that's not to say that the Thorogoods is less quality. That's just saying it's not a true mock toe like a redwing is. Whether that is something that you think is better or worse quality is up for you to decide. It's just, I think it's a bit of a neat fact because, once again, it goes back to the whole heritage thing. Now, the sole wear on these, a lot of people, another complaint is that the soles wear out fast. Now, I'm on concrete every single day, all day, or well, all night. And, see, they do wear out a little bit quicker than what most rubbers do. This is more of a crepe rubber mix from what I understand, and it is a lot softer than most. So, like, the heel has worn down a bit for 6 months. Once again, I'm not that heavy, so these don't have a lot of weight they have to support, so mine is going to wear slower than what most people are. But as far as wear in my Iron Rangers or my Corcorans, these have worn quite a bit faster. My Corcorans, if you go back and look at that video, are about 2 years, over 2 years at this point, but around the time was about 2 years old. And their wear is probably about the same as this, and they have a harder rubber. Now, granted, I'm not on concrete all the time with those. I'm more in mud and dirt, but that just goes to speak to how fast the rubber will wear out. This is something that you're going to have to look at and say, would I rather have durability or would I rather have comfort? Because you're not going to get a lot of comfort from the inside. And let me explain. This has a leather insole, which I covered last time, which is broken in amazingly to my foot. I can feel down in there if I wanted to and feel the ball of my foot. I could feel my heel that's imprinted into it. You can almost not see the, on the inside where the heel is, there's redwing stamped into it. You can't see that hardly anymore. And that's because the leather compresses and shapes to your foot. So it does that just like the outside does. The inside breaks in as well, which is what comes from, this is where a lot of the uncomfortable feeling that a lot of people get for the longest time. I pretty much, bought these, put them on, and went to work, and I found them uncomfortable for a while. But after about 2 to 3 months in wearing these things, these have really became a great and very comfortable boot, so to speak. Now, as far as the leather wear goes, if you look at the leather, these things, the reason if you look at the sides right here, they're so, worn and scuffed up is because I'm scooting on a concrete floor a lot of the times. So I'll be in this position, sitting on the boot there, scooting from one end of the aisle to the next, like that, which causes a lot of wear on the leather here. And one good thing about this boot is that it's got 2 layers of leather all around from this stitch point down, and even up here, there's 2 layers of leather. So if you wear through this layer, there's another layer underneath. This right here, this entire piece going all the way back to this, is 2 layers of leather. And then once you get to this back strap here, which is what a lot of people call it, because it's less of a heel cup because it doesn't really cup the whole heel. It's more of a back strap. It has 3 layers of leather right there. And I also really like the design of how that goes. Now, wear points. This is something that a lot of people talk about, wear points on the leather. Like, different boots is going to be wearing out in different ways. Well, one of the most common wear points of this piece would be right here. So this is a lot different than what most boots get a stitching like. Most boots their stitching goes up to right about here and then curves downwards. These are not like that. These are stitched mainly on the side all the way back. So there's 2 wear points. There's one here that you see and one here. This is a vulnerable point because, once again, these 2 pieces of leather are obviously 2 different pieces of leather, so it's going to be wearing in between them, which is not good and for a lot of people. But it doesn't wear out that quickly because, once again, this is a very durable leather. I mean, you could scuff the crap out of these things. This is 6 months, and here in a bit, whenever I upload a cleaning video, you'll see how well these things clean up. They might look bad now, but they're going to look much, much better afterwards, especially if you care for them correctly. Now, the reason that one of these is laced up and the other one isn't is because I wanted to show tongue wear on the eyelets. This is something that a lot of reviewers don't do. I'm not going to mention anyone specifically, but the ones that I watch, they don't do how the eyelets wear in on the tongue, and I like to show that. These have not been cleaned or wiped down in about a month. I wanted you guys to see pretty much as bad conditions these things do get in. So this is what it looks like when it's on my leg, pretty much. I've laced it, not tight. I wanted to make it look like it was on my leg specifically, so that way you guys can see how well it forms to your foot. But the tongue, you're not going to be able to see that on this one. On this one, you can see there's different points of where the eyelets are and where they, you know, get pressed up against the leather. It doesn't do it bad at all. Like, this is not going to wear through the leather whatsoever, no matter how tightly you pull them. And that's because, at least on my pair, maybe there's some with design flaws, but on this pair, these are perfectly rounded inwards to where it's not going to be poking it at all. And plus, they give you a pretty thick piece of leather on the tongue, which is, once again, trying to make it more durable than comfortable. So you're going to have a lot more breaking in before they get extremely comfortable. Another concern that a lot of people have is this, because I tuck my pants in, which is why my laces are always tucked into the boot, because I think it looks more uniform. I tuck my pants in so that way the bottom of my pants don't get wet when I'm outside, but a lot of people that put their pants over is this going to get caught on their pants at all? No, it's not. I use this every single time that I put them on and take them off. It doesn't stretch out and create a huge loop. Most of the time it stays completely flat like that, and that, you know, keeps it from like pulling on your pant leg or your pant leg getting stuck over top of it or something like that. But that's just in my experience. It has a 360-degree Goodyear welt that goes all the way around the boot. That's what 360 degrees means. And you'll notice with, unlike a lot of redwing boots, there's no stitches that go down to the bottom. Why? Well, because on a crepe-soled boot, the most you're ever really going to see is some stitching around here and maybe some around here that's hand done, because this, I don't know if you guys can see it really well, but there's two different colors of white. This is the softer rubber that you're going to be walking on, and this is a harder piece of rubber, which is a midsole. It has a rubber midsole that this is glued to. Now, some people have concerns with that, but that is how every single crepe-soled boot is out there that is in this price range. It's none of them are sold through 360 degrees. They're all glued on. Now, the midsoles might vary. On these, it is a rubber midsole. A lot of people consider that to be lower quality. Me personally, I haven't noticed a difference in performance. These things have been worn 8 hours a night, you know, 5 days a week, 5 nights a week, whatever, and more than that for 6 months now. And there's no like separation of the sole or anything yet. So I don't know if they're using a better rubber. I don't know if they're using a better glue, but whatever they're doing is working for me personally, and I would assume it would work for most of you out there that is buying this for especially a casual wear boot, because if you're wearing this stuff casually, most of the higher quality stuff, as far as like durability goes, you're not going to really have to worry about. As far as walking on the streets of New York, this boot is going to be plenty of what you need. The price point has changed over the past couple of years. It used to be, I think, $299.99. Now it's like $319.99 or something like that, which with tax and in many cases, some cases at least, if you're not buying them from Red Wing's shipping cost, these will come to about $350. Me, I didn't have to pay the $5 shipping because my order was over like 75 bucks or whatever it is on the website. So it still came out to about $350 because I bought a extra product with it, and that really is a turnoff to most people. They don't like that the prices went up, but me personally, I don't, I think they're worth $320, especially when you consider the fact that there is pretty much two vamps, because there is once again two layers of leather throughout the entire vamp of the boot, which the vamp is pretty much on this boot all the way throughout the boot. On the bottom, from this stitch line down, there's two layers of leather. So let's go on to the care process of the boot. So this is a very simple care process for this boot. There is a liquid online that you buy that I don't have with me right now, but it's a liquid soap. I think I've used it in other videos. You can use, I suggest, a smaller horse-haired brush with a more circular pattern, so that way you can get in smaller areas, and I find that it's easier to use. If you're using this for a casual wear, something that you're just going to be walking around in and not for work, I suggest using this. This is for the people that doesn't want their leather color to change hardly at all. It's still going to change because it's still going to, darken with use. That is with any boot that you buy on the planet, but this will keep it from darkening as much. Me personally, for the while, I used Snow Seal because it was getting rainy and snowy outside, and I was in situations where I needed a bit of waterproofing, or at least water resistance on there. So you just heat up the leather with this after you clean it, and then put it on, and then, let it somewhat dry. Don't dry completely, and then, you buff it out or whatever. But you put it on, and you just do a circular motion around the whole leather, and that creates a better water resistance. This is a great product. I'll do a product review on it at some point. Now, me personally, now I use my own that I make myself, and I do indeed sell this, but it's just a basic, like, waxy slash, like, oily. I made it for, like, oil tanned leathers, which is what this is. I just put it on the boot, and as you can see, it doesn't really darken it that much, especially after a couple of days of wearing it. The darkness goes away almost completely, and it darkens it less than what something like Snow Seal would do. And I do, once again, use these with everything. I mean, I go on dates with these. I wear them out in town. I do everything that I do in these boots, so I try to make them look as presentable as possible. And me personally, I've found that this is the best stuff that I could possibly use. As far as like a protection slash looks, medium. It protects the leather pretty well because it does have a lot of beeswax in it, but at the same time, it doesn't have a whole lot of oils in it, so it has enough to saturate the leather enough and keep it from cracking, but not enough to where it's going to darken it to where it looks like nothing but a dark brown boot. Something else you can do if you want the soles to continue to look white, you can get like a high grit sandpaper and sand around there, because once again, this is a welt. You don't want to sand that down too much, and as you're doing this, no matter how much you try, you're going to be hitting that welt a little bit, so you want to use a higher grit. Once again, this is never going to get perfectly white again. There's some people that can really do a good job, but you have to be willing to put in a lot of time and a lot of effort for it. It's never going to be perfect again, but you can get pretty close to it with some sandpaper. So this is my 6-month update. They've done nothing but get more comfortable. They're not any more worn out or anything like that. So I will see you guys in the cleaning video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. My channel has grown a little bit, so since my last video, I wasn't at 100 subscribers yet. Now I think I'm like at 126. So I appreciate that, and I hope we continue to grow, so that way I can put out more reviews, more cleaning videos, maybe some product reviews in the future. So I will see you guys in the next